Sorry I missed out on my first class that I was going to do and then the subsequent weeks, but I am glad to be back now. And this morning we'll be turning in our Bibles to chapter 7 of the book of Numbers. Again, this is where I kind of left off with the young people's class, and I'm just going to continue on from here. And pretty much how we got here to the book of Numbers, the book of Numbers chapter 7 is, if you guys remember, Abraham was called by God to leave Ur and go to a new home. And when he got there in that land, God made a covenant with him and told him that one of these days his family would be numbered like the sand on the seashore or the stars in the skies. And then he ends up having his sons, Abraham, Isaac, and then his grandson, Jacob. And of course, Jacob has a whole bunch of sons, 12 of them are to be exact. And then, of course, the world being what it is, a broken world, they ended up facing famine, and the family ends up in Egypt because of that. And, of course, Joseph got there a little bit before them because the brothers were a bit jealous of Joseph, and so we end up in Egypt with the 12 boys and their families, numbered about 70 or something, so are there around like that. And then in the land of Goshen of Egypt is where they're at, and the Pharaoh found favor with Joseph, of course, because he had interpreted his dreams and helped them get through the famine, And they multiplied, and they multiplied greatly while they were in that land, the land of Goshen, the Nile Delta of Egypt. And, of course, the Egyptians seeing them and Pharaohs, the same Pharaoh didn't stay around forever. Nothing comes along. They were there for quite a few years. There's a couple interpretations. You read in your Bible, they say 430 years, and some of them say that counts from the time of Abraham to the time that they leave out for the Exodus, and then some of them say it included all that time, and some say that 230 odd years. Of course, that's opinion in the Bible. You get two little narratives there on that. But regardless, I'll say they were there a long time. And they were there long enough to have a population, and probably 2 million or between 2 and 3 million. And they were so great a number of them in there that the Egyptians, Pharaoh, were like, they're great. Their number's great. And if they ever decided to get tired of us, they could side with another enemy and overthrow us, or maybe just defeat us straight out, something like that. So that Pharaoh puts them under hard labor and enslaves the people, God's people, the descendants of Abraham. And during that time, they had hard labor, served with rigor, and then Moses was born. And it was a special birth, really, in the way he come about, because Pharaoh had, during his process of trying to keep the Israelites beneath them or not being able to overthrow them, he took measures of trying to get rid of the firstborn and had the midwives try to get rid of the babies when they were born, but none of that was working. None of that worked. God's people continued to multiply. But when I read this, I'm like, I don't know if Egypt was really all that good for them in the long run, because here in the book of Numbers, as we start reading, they had a tendency to gripe and grumble, kind of lose their faith in God after a lot of the miracles that he had performed for them to get them out of Egypt in that servitude as they were slaves. So I don't think Egypt was good for them. God brings them out of there and uses Moses as an instrument to help bring them out, And so the Exodus begins from Egypt, and they end up where we're at now in the book of Numbers chapter 7 at a place called Mount Sinai. And even that little trip there of a little over a year, getting to Mount Sinai was an eventful process in itself. Like I said, God performed miracles to get them out of Egypt. He parted the Red Sea. There again, you can look in your study Bibles, and a lot of times it'll have a couple of narratives, possibilities of what that means. I, for one, believe it is parted as the Red Sea. I believe it was a tremendous amount of water. I don't want to diminish from God's ability to work miracles by saying it was just a little reed sea with a little ankle-deep water in it. Because when I read the Bible, I see of a great miracle there that water was parted and it was on each side of them. And so like I said, you see a couple different mentions of how possibilities there in your study Bible on that. But I look at it as a grand miracle that was performed when they crossed that Red Sea and Pharaoh's army was devoured by the waters and ended. And from there on, they on the way to Mount Sinai in that period, they had already had trouble with food. They were complaining to Moses that they didn't have food, that God wanted God to bring them out of Egypt for just to starve them to death in the wilderness. I think they even had an issue with bitter water. And of course, God through Moses resolved that issue as well. And more miracles here at Mount Sinai to the point where the jewelry that they had been given by the Egyptians when they left Egypt, to me, served as a weight around their neck in a way, because they ended up making a golden calf out of all that material, if you'll remember, when Moses was up on the mount. And that's a false god. And so them things of that Egypt that they drug with them from Egypt, even the memories they had of Egypt, I feel like was bad for these God's people when they left. And as we read here in this book of Numbers, we're going to see that they once again grumble about food, not having meat to eat. And God takes care of that problem, but he is definitely not pleased with their behavior at this, because we'll read, you'll see the results of their complaining about not having meat to eat. And there again, when that scripture is read, you see that they're reminiscent of their days in Egypt. Everybody knows Egypt, picture of sin as we move forward throughout the Bible. And they think about that, and they remember their fish, their flesh pots, their melons, etc., like that, as the scripture says. And so that's what we're heading for here in this book of Numbers. The book of Numbers itself, when you kick off in the first of it, the first Hebrew title of the book of Numbers was In the Wilderness. And that sounds kind of odd, because, we know numbers is numbers, but the title we got in our Bible today is more reflective of the fact of a census that was taken that God directed Moses to do of these people, this 2 to 3 million people that had left Egypt and was now at Mount Sinai. And up until now, God had told them he give them laws, if you want to say rules or laws of how they should live, if he was going to be amongst them and dwell amongst them in this trip this camping trip, of what I like to call it. It's relevant to me, It's Exodus, of course. But for him to dwell amongst them on this trip, he gives them certain rules and laws and things to consider clean and unclean. As we go through this in this book of Numbers, we will see it. And in order for God to dwell amongst these people, they're going to have to be clean. It is not in God's nature to be unclean or be around unclean things as we move forward in this book. We learned a lot of that, my class did, in Leviticus prior to this, is where a lot of that comes from. But it continues over into Numbers, as we see. We're about to pack up the tabernacle that God had had instructed Moses how to build this tabernacle, and the different and the way the priests were to operate within the tabernacle when doing sacrifices, etc., like that. So all that was in the book of Leviticus, and as we get coming into the book of Numbers, God, gives Moses words to improve on this a little bit. And part of this right here, this census that we're taking here in these first chapters of Numbers, when God tells him to take the number of each tribe of the men it was capable of fighting, serving, etc., like that. So we get into that big number we were talking about, 2 to 3 million, because they end up there's a lot of people there on this camping trip. And could you imagine what it would be like, that many people going through the wilderness? And that wilderness over there is a desert region, the Sinai down there, if you will. And so God's got them. He's got them to Mount Sinai, and they have got the materials for the tabernacle. The tabernacle has been assembled, and of course, it's getting time to pack up and move. And that's what we're getting here with these leaders of each tribe that was named in this census we got here. They're going to have different jobs that they have to do, that the people do. And of course, the Levites, if you remember, they are the premier tribe who encamp the closest to the tabernacle, right there around the tabernacle. And they're going to have the priest come from the tribe of the Levites. They're going to do the work in there. They do the offering, take care of everything. And that's all under the direction of God. And each group of these tribes has a certain spot they have to encamp around the tabernacle. And of course, the tabernacle is center, and God, to dwell amongst them, His presence will be there at the tabernacle, at the Holy of Holies. I won't get into all that. We'd covered that in the earlier classes. But the tabernacle had a certain way it was put up and designed and built, with the Holy of Holies being the most centermost part of the tabernacle. So I think I got us up to Numbers chapter 7 and got through that. Yeah. So here in the book of Numbers chapter 7, we'll start. This is going to be, I'll read this chapter 7, verses 1 through 3. I've had to try to blow some of this up, so you'll have to bear with me. I've been having a little vision trouble. But chapter 7, verses 1 through 3, and it came to pass on the day that Moses had fully set up the tabernacle and had anointed it and sanctified it, and all the instruments thereof, both the altar and all the vessels thereof, and had anointed them and sanctified them, that the princes of Israel, and these princes are going to be the leaders of the tribes that we were talking about that was numbered in the census here earlier. You remember the different tribes come from Jacob's sons. That's where the names comes, and this is going to be those in line below them. These are the princes or leaders of each tribe. Heads of the house of their fathers, who were the princes of the tribes and were over them that were numbered, offered. And they brought their offering before the Lord, 6 covered wagons, 12 oxen, a wagon for 2 of the princes, and for each one an ox, and they brought them before the tabernacle. All right, so before this tabernacle was officially dedicated into service, the princes of each tribe are going to bring some gifts. And they got 6 covered wagons, 12 oxen were presented to the tabernacle. For what? Why would we need wagons for the tabernacle? Because when we pack the tabernacle up, parts of it will have to be loaded on wagons. So that's what these wagons are going to be for, is to transport, move the tabernacle from point A to point B. All right, verses 4 through 9. And the Lord spake unto Moses, saying, Take it of them that they may be to do the service of the tabernacle of the congregation, and thou shalt give them unto the Levites, to every man according to his service. And Moses took the wagons and the oxen and gave them unto the Levites. 2 wagons and 4 oxen he gave unto the sons of Gershon, according to their service, and 4 wagons and 8 oxen he gave to the sons of Merari, according unto their service under the hand of Ithamar, the son of Aaron, the priest. But unto the sons of Kohath he gave none, because the service of the sanctuary belonging unto them was that they should bear upon their shoulders. So some of the items that are to be transported are going to be carried on their backs. Some are going to be on wagons. And this is all according to God's plan, his way he instructed to Moses. Moses, he assigns the wagons and the oxen to the Levites for transporting the tabernacle. and 2 wagons dedicated for the use of the sons of Gershon in transporting the various curtains of the tabernacle. And 4 wagons were dedicated to the sons of Merari to transport the timbers. And the sons of Kohath are going to be the ones that carries it on their back, and what they are is to bear the sacred furniture of the tabernacle. So the furniture is what's going on the backs of the Kohathites. Chapter 7, verses 10 through 11. And the princes offered for dedicating of the altar in the day that it was anointed. Even the princes offered their offering before the altar. And the Lord said unto Moses, they shall offer their offering, each prince on his day, for the dedicating of the altar. All right, over this period of the next 12 days, each prince is going to be presenting a gift. A tribe of Israel brought a special offering for the dedication of the tabernacle of the altar. Okay, so we pick up here at 12, and this one's where I'm going to switch over to my Bible because I couldn't blow all this up. But this order in verses 12 through 88, I'm not reading all of it because it's kind of repetitive. You'll see what I'm talking about here. So let me flip over here. All right, because we're getting on the 12 days offering. So each one is going to do their offering each day. So it's going to be repetitive in what we got here. You'll see what I'm talking about. And he that offered his offering the first day was Nahshon, the son of Amminadab of the tribe of Judah. So here's going to be the tribe of Judah, the leader, going to offer his offering. And I'll do the first one. And his offering was 1 silver charger, that's a platter. The weight thereof was 130 shekels. 1 silver bowl of 70 shekels. I think I had the weights here. That platter equals out to about like 3-pound platter, shekels or something we're not familiar with. After the shekel of the sanctuary, both of them were full of fine flour, mingled with oil for a meat offering, which there again is a grain offering, not to be confused with meat, but it's grain. One spoon of 10 shekels of gold full of incense, 1 young bullock, 1 ram, 1 lamb of the first year for a burnt offering, 1 kid of the goats for a sin offering, and for a sacrifice of peace offerings, 2 oxen, 5 rams, 5 he-goats, 5 lambs of the first year. This was an offering of Nahshon, the son of Amminadab. That's the first one, the tribe of Judah, his offering. Now, these offerings, I'm going to tell you, is unfamiliar to me. I've read them when we was back in Leviticus, and I kind of get what's going on, but like I said, it's confusing to me. I know there's offerings of thanksgiving. There's offerings to make up for sin, peace offerings, etc. like that. But one thing I do gather when I've read about these offerings, and it's not to me, it's not to be taken lightly, that the process of when these Israelites went up to the tabernacle and they brought a young lamb or a young bullock, a live animal, the firstborn, which was a really prized possession. And God declared these animals his, the firstborn of these animals. And these had a lot of value in this community in this time. When you live off of a farming type community, when you have livestock that is born, it helps to ensure that you're going to survive, you're going to live in these times. So it's got a great value on these people, and especially when you've got 3 million people going through the wilderness. Because you can't just eat all these animals. You're going to be out. So it's got a real great value that these animals, number one, are alive, and you've got 2 to 3 million people traveling together, and they're living off the substance that God gave them, manna, at this time, pretty much. But the thing about me about the offering that I don't want to take lightly, even though I get confused sometimes about it, I'm just being honest with you, because it's the whole thing is foreign to me. The process in which doing that. And I've read it several times, and we read it with the class, and I get it down, but I forget it. But if you take that animal, that young firstborn animal of value, and you walk up to the door of that tabernacle that God has instructed them to do to make an atonement for their sins, because when someone has sinned, there has to be something given to make an atonement for it. And this value of this animal, to me, this valuable animal at this time, And when that owner, when that man brings that sin offering up for that animal to the front door of the tabernacle, and he lays his hand upon that animal, which has done nothing. Granted, I understand it is an animal, but it does have value. And he lays his hands on that animal, and that sin from him is passed to that animal. And he looks into the eyes of that animal, which has done nothing. And the only reason it's there is because of the sin that he has committed, the things that he has done wrong. And he puts his hand on that animal, and it's transported to that, and he cuts its throat, and that animal dies. If there ain't a little bit of something in your heart just thinking about that, why did that have to die? Because I was a sinner. For those people in that time period. I think, and of course we know reading into the future, if we're reading into the Bible, we'll see that God gets fed up with the people because they just do that out of a routine. They don't even have no feeling for it anymore, those people. And that's when they end up hauled off to Babylon and the nation is destroyed and they led off into captivity. But there is a picture there to me in my mind of someone even greater who dies in the future for my sin, for the things that I've done wrong. And I look at it and I see that God made that provision for me. And if that don't affect your heart in a way and make you really thankful to God, there's something wrong there. You should feel that. I think I know it's even greater than that process we see here back in the Old Testament. But even then, it should have pricked somebody's heart back then that something had to die for the things that they done wrong. So, moving on, that's the part I get out of this when I read in the Old Testament about the sacrifice system. I see a picture into the future, our future, my future is what I see when I see this. And I hope that if we study through the Old Testament here, that, and I know that I do, I start to see things that are familiar to me in the New Testament as we read and study about God. Pictures that link and flash in my mind of things to come is what I'm leading into there. So anyway, chapter 7, I'm going to go through here all the way to 88 and just do the tribes and just make them familiar. I'm sure everybody is, but the second tribe on the second day here, and on the Nathaniel, the son of Zuar, prince of Issachar, did offer. And on the third day, Eliab, the son of Helon, prince of the children of Zebulun. All right, that's the third day, the third tribe. Verse 30, on the fourth day, Elazar, the son of Shedur, prince of the children of Reuben. So remember Reuben, they did offer on the fourth day. Verse 36, on the fifth day, Shelomiel, the son of, I cannot even pronounce that one. I can't remember. Prince of the children of Simeon. I can remember Simeon. So Simeon's offspring made offer on the fifth day. And on the sixth day, Elisaph, the son of Deuel, prince of the children of Gad. Remember, that was another one of Jacob's sons on the sixth day. On the seventh day, Elishama, the son of Ammihud, prince of the children of Ephraim. Ephraim, everybody remember Ephraim is one of the sons of Joseph. Remember Joseph? All right, and then the eighth day is Manasseh offered there. That's the second son of Joseph. And on the ninth day, Abidan, the son of Gideoni, prince of the children of Benjamin. And on the 10th day, Ahazir, the son of Ammishaddai, prince of the children of Dan. And on the 11th day, the descendants of Asher made their offering. And all finishing up here on verse 78. And on the 12th day, the descendants are Ahira, the son of Enon, prince of the children of Naphtali, offered. So each one on their day, each prince of each tribe made their offering. And let me see what I get here. Okay. Now we pick up and on verse 80. because the following verses after 78 through 83 is just the naming of each item that they brought that day. And verse 84 is where we pick up and read, and you can follow on a little easier. This was the dedication of the altar in the day when it was anointed by the princes of Israel. 12 chargers of silver, 12 silver bowls, 12 spoons of gold, each charger of silver weighing 130 shekels, each bowl 70. All the silver vessels weighed 2,400 shekels, after the shekel of the sanctuary. The golden spoons were 12, full of incense, weighing 10 shekels apiece, after the shekel of the sanctuary. All the gold of the spoons was 120 shekels. All of the oxen for the burnt offering were 12 bullocks, the rams 12, the lambs of the first year 12, with their meat offering, and the kids of the goats for sin offering 12. And all the oxen for the sacrifice of the peace offerings were 20 and 4 bullocks. The rams 60, the he-goats 60, the lambs of the first year 60. This was the dedication of the altar. After that it was anointed. And when Moses was gone into the tabernacle of the congregation to speak with him, then he heard the voice of the one speaking unto him from the mercy seat that was up on the ark of the testimony, from between the two cherubims, and he spake unto him. So Moses goes in and God speaks to him. The mercy seat, the Ark of the Covenant, of course, is within the Holy of Holies. And so Moses, I think it's right outside in the next little section. If I got that right in my mind, it could be wrong. But anyway, all these items, each tribe brings these and dedicates all this to the workings of the tabernacle. All this stuff is to the tabernacle. And to remember, all this stuff is holy too. It's not to be taken lightly. If we read back in Leviticus, things for the tabernacle are special. You know, the showbread was special. The candlestick was special. The incense had a special recipe for all that. It wasn't just nilly-willy stuff, you know. They had to be done a certain way. And if you remember, to Aaron's son brings 2 strange fire into the tabernacle, and they were struck down then. So they have to go by a certain process, and all this is set aside for God. And to think this stuff is probably going to be carried on into the future when Solomon puts the temple together, the more permanent structure. All these items are going to be there into the future one of these days. So, all right, so upon the dedication, that's it. Now, chapter 8, we'll pick, I think I got it. Yeah, I got all of chapter 7, then we'll pick up in chapter 8. All right, and I'll read 1 through 4, verses 1 through 4. And the Lord spake unto Moses, saying, Speak unto Aaron, and say unto him, When thou lightest the lamps, this is the candle that we was talking about, the candelabra, and the 7 lamps should give light over against the candlestick. And Aaron did so, and he lighted the lamps thereof over against the candlesticks as the Lord commanded Moses. And this work of the candlestick was of beaten gold unto the shaft thereof, unto the flowers thereof was beaten work according unto the pattern which the Lord had showed Moses, so he made the candlestick. All right. Now I'm reading verses. That's pretty much just provide light within that part of the tabernacle. Verses 5 through 16, chapter 8. And the Lord spake unto Moses, saying, Take the Levites, of course, the tribe of Levi, that's where these Levites come from. They're going to be set aside for doing God's work in the tabernacle, into the temple, into the future when they build it. From among the children of, take the Levites from among the children of Israel and cleanse them. So there's going to be a process for cleansing these Levites. Now, why would that be necessary? If we read back in the book of Leviticus, in the book of Leviticus, there were certain things that people did, like come in contact with a dead body. There's the other issues about people who had leprosy and so forth, that God considered these things unclean and clean. So there had to be a process for these Levites to be clean, to actually do their work in God's tabernacle. They can't just run in and out of there anytime they want to without being clean. All right. Sprinkle water of purifying upon them, and let them shave all their flesh, and let them wash their clothes, and so make themselves clean. Kind of the same principle in the preceding chapter, in chapter 6, I think it was, in Numbers, when people took the Nazirite vow, when they vowed to do certain work for God in a capacity, they had they had to be clean as well. So this here for the Levites has got to be clean. Then let them take a young bullock with his meat offering, even fine flour mingled with oil, and another young bullock shalt thou take for a sin offering. And thou shalt bring the Levites before the tabernacle of the congregation, and thou shalt gather the whole assembly of the children of Israel together. So this is going to be a big deal. Everybody's going to be gathered together. And thou shalt bring the Levites before the Lord, and the children of Israel shall put their hands upon the Levites. And Aaron shall offer the Levites before the Lord for an offering of the children of Israel, that they may execute the service of the Lord. And the Levites shall lay their hands upon the heads of the bullocks, and thou shalt offer the one for a sin offering, and the other for a burnt offering unto the Lord, to make atonement for the Levites. And thou shalt set the Levites before Aaron and before his sons, and offer them for an offering unto the Lord. Thus shalt thou separate the Levites from among the children of Israel, and the Levites shall be mine. So God's telling Moses here how to separate the Levites. This is part of instruction of God to them. It's laid out here where we can all see it and see how important it is that they be separated and they be clean, because they're going to be doing the work in the tabernacle. All right. And after the Levites go in to do the service of the tabernacle of the congregation, and thou shalt cleanse them and offer them for an offering, for they are wholly given unto me. Now what's God saying here? When they are wholly given unto me, it's like we was talking about earlier, the firstborn of the animals, God claims them. The firstborn is important. But right here, he claimed them to do his service in the tabernacle, to the point that they're not going to have an inheritance in the land in the future when they get to the promised land. Their sole purpose in being is to serve God at the tabernacle in the worship process. And God will provide for them in that capacity that they serve for him, and the other tribes will provide food and so forth through the processes that go through the tabernacle to keep them going. All right. All right. Now, chapter 8, verses 17 through 19. For all the firstborn of the children of Israel are mine, both man and beast. Like I said earlier, that God even claims the firstborn of the animals. And think about it, God makes possible for the firstborn of everything. And when you was in that community, community back then, or that economy back then, that farming economy, the animals, the firstborn, were very valuable and very popular. All right, so I'll finish up reading these verses and then we'll stop. All right, God says they are on the first day, they are mine, man and beast. And on the day that I smote every firstborn in the land of Egypt, as remember the 10th plague, when the firstborn of the Egyptians were died that night, that because of the hand of God it took that action, because Pharaoh wouldn't let his people go. All right, and I had given, and in the land of Egypt I sanctified them for myself. And I have taken the Levites for all the firstborn of the children of Israel. So instead of all the firstborn of the children of Israel, he's going to get what's his out of the tribe of Levi. That total will equal what would have been the firstborn of the rest of them. And I have given the Levites as a gift to Aaron and his sons from among the children of Israel, to do the service of the children of Israel in the tabernacle of the congregation, and to make an atonement for the children of Israel, that there be no plague among the children of Israel when the children of Israel come nigh unto the sanctuary. So, and through this, for God claiming the Levites for the rest of the firstborn, for the rest of them, he is saving the firstborn when they come too close to that tabernacle. God is claiming them as his. All right, so I'll stop there. Well, I hope I didn't confuse everybody too much.